Hey everybody, this is Grace and I am on my way to yet another type of doctor. This one I don't feel like naming all the different types. I don't even remember why I was referred to, well, I was referred to one of them, but I live north of Dallas, and the doctor that I learned not to trust, he referred me to one that was in Austin, and I live north of Dallas. In case you're wondering, that's even further away from Austin than is Dallas. Austin is more mid Texas. Dallas is north central Texas, and I'm north of Dallas. So anyway, I learned not to trust him. I don't know how many times I saw him, but I moved on. Yeah, and as usual. But this one, it reminds me of what happened a couple years ago when I first started going to this. I don't even know what you call them anymore. Really, I really don't know how you call them all, because like some of them are all related, some of them aren't. And it's all changed since. Yeah, it just changed. But yeah, I don't even know if this mount can make my videos straight anymore. Yeah, I need to get a new one. It seems like every time I turn around I'm getting a new one. But anyway, I'm on my way to this new one, and it's not in a field that I've seen before. So, you know, in a specialization, I don't know what you call it, all of it. So many different changes in that too. But this one, this is something common up here north of Dallas. They generally have a practice in a small town, smallish. Okay, it can be quite small, or you know, smallish, like I said. And then they'll have one in a bigger suburb. Okay, and then quite often they'll also have a practice in Dallas, like closer to the small suburb. I mean, not small, yeah, the small suburb, or a big suburb for that matter. Yeah. Okay, I have to say this was the most ridiculous thing I've ever done. The most ridiculous directions I've ever heard, I should say. First of all, the GPS didn't even recognize it. The GPS sent me around in circles. And believe me, I kept doing it and trying to figure out there's no names on the roads. It's all kind of new out here. Oh my goodness, I'm like, really? So I called to get directions, and the woman, English was not her best language. Not at all. There was definitely a language barrier. And all she could say is, on the right, it's on the right, it's on the right. It's at this. I said, I'm there at that. It's not here. Is it in here? Is it in way inside of there somewhere? She couldn't understand me. She says it's on the right. And believe me, where it wound up being, I had to find it. Just luckily find it. Then I had to go in and ask, and the woman says, just right next door. There's the same name, the same place, but it's different. It's the same practice, I should say. But one of them they do the procedures in, the other one they have their office visits in, two different buildings next to one another. And the way the map is, you would not be coming here. It's like, oh my goodness. I almost said, screw this. This has been the worst one to have an appointment with. The rescheduling crap that I didn't finish talking about that. But oh my goodness, and then what they do is when the health provider decides, I'm just going to take the day off. I'm just not going to make it to there today. Nah, I don't want to. And they call, and they say, well, you're going to have to reschedule. And I said, well, okay. You know, and they tell me, I said, well, how about this day? They said, well, we only have 1 day left. And if you don't take that day, smart aleck like this, seriously, then you're going to have to wait about a month or two. Really? I said, does the doctor do this often? Because, yeah, I've had several doctors in this since going back to those about 2 years. Well, about a year and a half. Several of the doctors just decided doctors or providers, I should say. They just decided they wanted the day off. One of them, she wanted to go on a vacation. And of course, when they do it, they're rescheduling. So they're saying the patient, how else is it going to show up that the patient, it's going to show up that the patient rescheduled. Are they going to put in the notes that the doctor or the provider had decided to take a vacation? No, because I'm saying this because one time I called back, I said, I was talking to one of them, somebody worked there, and she said, no, you rescheduled twice. I said, no. She said an accusation. She said, what, you rescheduled twice, so. And I think it was something that they took me off to where I couldn't schedule appointments because of it. I said, I did not reschedule. I said, they did. And it's, how else is it going to show up? Seriously. The patient's either going to have canceled or rescheduled. It's not going to show up to put the blame on where it belongs. Now I'm not just talking about this one. I'm talking about any of them. You wouldn't believe how my planner, that I had to buy a planner just for this year. I usually have 3 planners. This one I had to buy a 4th for this year for appointments, various kinds. I have 8 appointments. This is going to be one of those 8 already lined up. And you wouldn't believe how much whiteout is on it, and it wasn't all because of me. Anyway, this one they had rescheduled for a day, and I told him, I said, that day's not going to work for me. She said, well, then you're going to have to wait. I said, go ahead and reschedule it for that day. She rescheduled for the day, and I called and canceled it. Called and rescheduled it. It wasn't as far away as that woman told me. Anyway, let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, I just got out of there. I'm on my way home. I don't know what to think. For one thing, I got pretty ticked off. Which is in a way good, because 2 years of all this stuff, I was becoming like desensitized, but I'll call it that. I'll also call it that I was just stunned, in shock, all these different things, and what I'm talking about is the behaviors of some of these healthcare providers, being in shock about that. Not what they're saying, because basically they're not saying much of anything. Okay, I hear a lot. I hear more crickets than I hear diagnoses. Okay, hello, where are you? What's going on? 2 years? It took 2 years. Okay, 2 years to get somewhere in this. 2 years. Really, seriously. And but now it's like, okay, after 2 years of getting nowhere fast, as people used to say, it was just so unbelievable. Really. But anyway, I think I got to where I just couldn't get mad anymore. I just couldn't get upset. I just couldn't get tired of it. I just couldn't feel anything, because it was the same thing. Crickets. You're not going to get nobody's going to tell you anything. Nobody's going to make any diagnosis. Nobody's going to do any of that. They're not even going to explain to you why you're taking a medication, even if you ask, why do I need that? Well, why do I do this? Nope, they're not going to explain it. They're like, they're there and they're talking, but they're not saying anything. Like Adam said, he was there with me the second time I went to hospital ER back in 2023, and he was with me in the room that time and listened. He said, did they say anything? All these different healthcare providers, did they say anything? I said, welcome to my world. That was just the second time. It went on. I've seen that in other things too, so it was the second time at that hospital. And it's just for that thing. That makes sense, right? Okay. But just some of it is just so unbelievable. Now, so I got ticked off, and like I said, that's a good thing because I'm coming out of being desensitized or something. Unbelievable what I've been through just to try to get a diagnosis. It's so pathetic. It really is. That healthcare, and I'm not saying all healthcare providers, just the ones I have been unlucky enough to run across that do this. Where are they? Do they have absolutely no? Well, I could go on. Okay. But anyway, it's my life. It was my lifetime. How much time they've wasted of mine. Not being diagnosed. And anyway, this one I went into, and they can't do anything until they hear from the new doctor that I'm seeing, and he doesn't know anything yet. He's trying me on a new medication. And that's the one I got sick on I got sick last week. I don't know if it was the medication or food poisoning or whatever. But just right after I took the medication, got sick. What is Cosmix? Okay, Cos, then Mix. Alrighty. Anyway, I've never seen that place before. But anyway, I went in there and I was ticked off. And it's a real nice, they seem to have spent some money to make it look good. Okay. I'm just going to say that and leave it there. They spent some money to make it look good, the place. It's new, so buildings are new. But anyway. But they can't do anything until they hear back from them, which is going to take time because I'm new to that doctor. They're going to have to do these tests. Then if not, they're going to do other kind of tests, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. Okay, at least they're talking now. At least it's not just crickets. Not that everything is explained and they don't have enough time because she was right at an hour late for my appointment. And my appointment took 10 minutes. Yeah. 10 minutes. I'm only curious what my insurance is paying for all of these kinds of things. And when the doctor has on there 30 minutes, like the last one I went to, their whatever they send says 30 minutes. He's late for my appointment 10 minutes, so my appointment's only 20 minutes, and I don't get to find out all that I want. Because they have other patients. Right at an hour late. Wow, seriously. Okay, there's a really neat classic over here. I wish I could see what kind it is. It's beautiful. But I don't want to be rude. The guy's right there. I don't want to be rude and take a picture. Although he might like it. Anyway. I was talking about why I went in angry. I mean, why couldn't the woman explain to me how to get there? Like I said, it's a good thing. I'm feeling anger. This is the second time recently I felt, not anger, because I'm mild-mannered as it is. So it's more like perturbed. I'm just like, oh. But then they had this thing that you sign that if you reschedule your appointment twice, then they're going to charge you $50. And I told the woman, I said, look, the first time I had an appointment, they rescheduled because of your doctor. Rescheduled, said that she wouldn't be in. This place I just went to. And these are young people. They were real nice and real friendly. And I said, and that's wrong to charge the patient $50. When I said, how else is it going to look? Like I said on video, how else is it going to look online? Is that that the patient rescheduled? She said, no, we make notes. So she read me the notes and she said, yeah, they were there. So, but I know I annoyed her. And another thing that was kind of funny was when I left home, I told Adam, I said, I'm not going to dress up, and I never do. I like for the doctors to see me. Usually I don't wear any makeup. But when I first see a doctor, I want them to see all of, see me, no makeup, so they can see if there's something like they can see in my face, like dark circles under my eyes, or, whatever they would see. I don't know whether they would see something in dark circles. I'm not a healthcare provider, so I don't know. I still can't tell what kind of car that is. What happened to what kind of car it is? But anyway, so anything and plus I like to wear capris so they can see my legs. If they can see anything in my ankles, I wear Crocs. And well, last year, because of having to work, I bought clothes that I don't wear. This kind of clothing, t-shirts and hoodies, and I'm wearing a t-shirt. I kind of like it. Okay. Yeah, I don't wear t-shirts. I'm serious. I was not a t-shirt wearer. Okay, I need to figure out what road I gotta take here. All right, but anyway, so I was dressed in a t-shirt to go to this place, and it's really nice. They spent some money trying to make it look really nice. Okay, I'm talking like expensive, really nice, and upscale. What else you want to call it? Just for people who are wealthy, maybe. And there was a woman in there. She may have been my age. I don't know, but she was obviously very wealthy. And some people would say, well, you can fake it, and yes, you can. To some people, you can fake it. Now, I'm not a person. Adam and I aren't hurting for money. We've been through that. Believe me, we went through that. Hurting for money. Oh yes. When we were younger, but these days we're not hurting for money, but we have old habits of not buying good clothes. Seriously, we don't spend much money on our appearance. Neither one of us. And we've known one another. We met and married over 40 years ago. So yeah, we've never gotten the habit, and his bothers me more than mine, because I at least I bought those shirts for work. Something to wear to work in. And but Adam, he's still wearing shirts even though they have holes in them or something like that. T-shirts probably 20 years old. I'm not kidding. I am not like that. And his one of his pairs of sandals, he likes sandals. One of our dogs chewed up one of the straps on. He would wear it out. He didn't care. No, dude, no. But he just does his own thing, really. And so while I'm saying this is what I told Adam, so I'm not going to dress with you. Yeah, I said, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing pressure and all this stuff. I really don't care. I really, don't care so much, but I thought it was funny. I go to this place and it's so nice. It kind of, some places can look nice, and then once you get in there, you really look at stuff, you say, yeah, y'all need to replace that. Yeah, that's like the chairs inside of there. They were real short. Well, my dad was 6'7", as I say. I did not say 5'7", 6'7", and all of me and my 3 sisters and a brother, we're all tall. We got, how people say we got it honestly. Like, how can you get that dishonestly? But anyway, we're all tall. He was 6'7", built like a linebacker, and so we're all tall. And these chairs were so far. This is something I'm working on in physical therapy, but this week I'm not doing physical therapy. I'm not sure when I'm going to start back, but these were so short that in physical therapy I'm doing this thing of trying to it's about my hamstring muscles, trying to sit without touching anything, without holding on to anything, to just stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down. And if it's too short, I've been saying this for many years, if it's too short, if my knees are higher than my lap, I'm not going to be able to get up without holding on to something. am a tall woman, and I always have been tall, since for my age, whatever it was. So, okay, anyway, so the chairs they had there, and I'm like, this is, most of the patients I would not think are that short, and that it would, I cannot see that those chairs in there were appropriate. They were so short. They had some chairs that they actually had to put something on top of to make them higher, and just a row of those chairs. But the other ones were like sofas, that kind of chair, kind of thing. What are you doing? Wow, these people, people, it's not even in my lane, but they're doing stuff like texting and such, and causing everybody to have to wait on them. Anyway, something has to be said every video, because guess what? Something happens every video. Anyway, wow, they almost hit one another. But anyway, the chairs were inappropriate. They spent money on the sofa, that kind of stuff. The chairs weren't like you usually see, or at least I usually see, and like, I don't know if you call them clinics, or they're called as, like associates or something like that. They have a bunch of doctors in one place, Back in the day, they were just called clinics. But maybe clinics got such a bad name because usually it was for people without funds or something. I don't know. It's like as if that's the reason to give something a bad name. It's not, but that helps some people think. Got all that? Yeah. But this place, it was nice. I had never seen any place like that was that nice. And what I was talking about was this one. I was going to talk about was this one woman. Like I mentioned, she just looked like she definitely had money, and I thought it was pretty funny. She and I were the only two people in the waiting room, but she, I didn't sit there and stare at her, of course, or anything, but I could tell just when I walked in, how you first walk into some place and you're trying to find where you're supposed to go, you just walking into it. There's, all you know is the door. And you open the door and you look and okay, I gotta go to the right or to the left, whatever, or straight forward, whatever it is. And I saw her as I was glancing, and I could just tell her clothing, just as a quick glance, through the room. And she had money. And then I had to turn around again for something, and I had to stand there. First I had to stand there, then I had to go sit down and turn around for something, and look that, my eyes would pass by there, that kind of thing. I'm not staring at anybody. Because, that kind of stuff does not really impress me either. I'm not a superficial person at all, in any way. So, I don't judge people, bad, negative, good, positive. I just don't do any of that. It doesn't impress me. Money does not impress me. Lack of money doesn't impress me. So none of it impresses me. None of it really. I mean, if it's bad for somebody, then yeah, I feel, empathy and all that. But just to, somebody to dress up so nice. I just think that was her usual. My usual these days is capris. These shirts. Like I said, I bought them for work. I bought them through, and I'm not sponsored. Not sponsored. Temu, some would call it Temu. And there were a bunch of shirts, shirts, t-shirts. I don't wear t-shirts, like I said. And I never wore, was not one to wear, that person sitting there texting and making people have to wait on them. Another one, yet another one. But I'm sitting there, but I ordered the hoodies, not just the ones that are real warm, but the ones that are shirts, because I wanted the pockets. I also ordered some scrubs, the shirts, because I like the pockets. I need pockets, and I don't wear pockets. So see what I'm saying? they're not expensive clothing. Why would somebody wear expensive clothing for that? You know, I've gone through all that, mentioned all that, moving on. But I don't know. But you know, my whole reaction, I'm sure I'm kind of embarrassed myself there. You know, and I don't get embarrassed anymore. It is what it is. You know, I did not take it out on them. I just explained to them. Said, you know, and I told the young woman, I said, that's not what happened to me the first time, and not with your practice, but with one, is that they said told me you rescheduled twice, and I said, no, I didn't. You know, and I said, how else is it going to look? And she said, we keep notes, so we know. Good. They had to come to that awareness. You can't say we're going to charge somebody $50 if they reschedule more than, I think it was twice, and $100 if they can't, they just don't show up. I thought that was illegal. I remember I used to do medical billing back when I was a career student, and that was finally determined it was illegal, but you know how things like that go. They find ways of, you know, they're like this one said, they don't bill your insurance company that. Well, that's because the insurance company is not going to pay for it anyway. But like I said, I heard it was illegal. And then on the card, it actually, the business card, it actually said $25. So make up your mind. I don't know. Anyway, but I'm not impressed with all this stuff. Yeah, this one, it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was just, yeah, they have to wait. So, okay, we'll wait. And see what, I gotta get in this lane. Better do it now. But, what do they got in the back of that? Can you tell? It must be trees. I would think that's trees. But anyway, you know, they're gonna have to wait, and I don't know, you know, it's kind of funny because I've always questioned her more than once about something, and I've always wondered, well, if they can't do that, then what do they do? Well, let's see, something very little, a lot less expensive, and that's what I had kind of wondered about. You know, I mean, I've more than wondered about, because with me they might not be able to do the one that's intrusive, invasive, I don't know. And what do they do if they can't do that? Well, like I said, she finally answered me, and she didn't say it's less expensive, but I know that it's going to be less expensive. Everybody would know. I think anybody would know that it's going to be less expensive. So, and I am one, because my degrees are, you know, I'm a social and behavioral scientist. I am one to question these things. I don't just accept things just because they are. You know, I'm an independent all around. I think for myself. Don't need anybody to tell me how to think. And not really, but I need the information so I can make my own, you know, assessment of something. And yeah, that's what I thought. Is that it's they have tests that you can do that aren't all that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. This video is going to be long, isn't it? I had expected just to say a few things and then go cut it off, but anyway, well, I didn't do so much on the way there. I had to try to figure out why the map wouldn't tell me where to go, and it's because it's all new out there, like I was saying, and none of the roads have names, so it just sends around in a circle over and over and over. Oh, yes. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Talk to y'all in